Welcome to the pit of despair. I can be a bit of a media snob at times, so I put myself through a gauntlet of the 10 lowest rated anime on the website My Anime List to see if I can teach my mind, or rather bludgeon it into submission, to be able to sit back and enjoy things without such a critical lens sometimes. It has not been going great so far. Last time we took a look at Twinkle Nora Rock Me, Madonna, and X-Arm, which is the only full series on the list and thus took up a lot of the video. This time we'll delve into the remaining 7 entries and finally arrive at what is supposedly the worst anime of all time. Notice anything familiar about this? Anything at all? Between 1910 and 1945, Korea was under the colonial rule of the Empire of Japan. During this time, Japan forced Korean culture to assimilate into its own, extracted massive amounts of resources from the country, used the Korean people for forced labor, particularly during the Second World War, and generally did a lot of horrible, terrible, and not very nice things. In 1945, when South Korea became a sovereign nation, they were understandably upset about all this unpleasantness and passed the Law for Punishing Anti-National Deeds, which banned Korean citizens from associating with anything Japanese. The law also extended to basically all international imports, but was clearly primarily focused on Japan. The law was gradually loosened starting in 1998 and eventually fully lifted in 2004, but that meant that for a period of about 55 years, Korea had banned all Japanese cultural influence and therefore were totally free to just rip off any anime they felt like. And that means that we're once again venturing into the realm of, is this anime? With the feature-length film Super Kid, which was released on VHS in Korea in 1994, and which answers the question, what would happen if you took Goku from Dragon Ball, made him an ugly, greedy little brat, and then infused it about 30% with a serum made from the concentrated essence of American kids' cartoons? Alright, Super Kid, let's go.
The fate of the universe has only one chance.
The answer is, as I would soon find out, a splitting headache and a strong desire to run away and live in a cave out in the woods, safe from the influences of modern technology, like God intended.
An awesome battle
Oh yeah, this seems to only exist dubbed, by the way. Yeah, about that. An English dub was released a year later in 1995, and unless you can get your hands on an original VHS copy, the only translated version of this movie that seems to exist is this heavily degraded version of that English dub. There do seem to be at least some slightly higher quality clips in the original Korean, so I set about learning Korean. About a week into my journey, though, I realized that, much to my surprise, learning a language is actually very hard and would probably take more than a week, possibly even years. So English dub it is. Why am I watching a trailer for the movie that I'm about to watch at the start of the movie? Super Kid. And another intro. Super Kid. Again. Yep, I know. After wading through all the intros, I was off. 2023? The distant future. God, I hope I can get this video out before 2023 is over. We're first introduced to the sleepiest reporter of all time, who in the dub is referred to as June. As you can see, the art style is heavily influenced by anime art styles and Dragon Ball Z in particular. Well, most of the time at least.
She's never gonna get a scoop if she keeps on falling asleep like that, by Jiminy.
Is that Archie grown up?
The epic highs and lows of high school football.
So, my anime list. Is this anime? It was literally created specifically in opposition to anime, and there is no connection to Japan in any way other than stylistic influence. So I guess if Madonna was an argument that any animation produced in Japan is anime, then this is an argument that, if it feels like anime, then it is. If that's the case though, doesn't something like Avatar: The Last Airbender fit the same criteria? Not to mention that most of the animation was outsourced to anime studios? Put King of the Hill on the dang website already, come on. June almost falls asleep again while talking to her boss on the sentient telephone, then heads downtown to record a battle between some kidnappers and the
Super Kid!
I have waited my whole life for a story like this.
Yeah, sure. Whatever.
Oh, yeah! All right.
Oh, what a perfect performance for that line read right there. Oh, yeah, sure, whatever. I love it. Oh my gosh.
I think she's really lost it this time.
On our way to the fight, we're treated to an introduction to these little rascals. You've got
Gokdari.
Oh, Gokdari. Okay.
Superhuman strength.
Looks a little familiar,
Believed to be
but
199 years old. Big boy. 13 years
Big
old.
boy.
Weighs approximately 400 pounds. Samachi.
Well, he's kind of a creepy-looking alien, but I'd date him.
And the rest.
Chiolman. Rockpile. Has a body made of stone.
Rockpile. I gotta come clean. I was not paying attention to the ages here, so it wasn't until watching this footage back that I realized that the super kids are ancient. Gokdari is 200,
That little boy is 199 years old?
Samachi is 97, and Rockpile is 2000. So they're all just hanging out with the only actual kid here, 13-year-old big boy. That kind of casts this all in a bit of a sinister light in hindsight.
I'm placing you under arrest, so come
Boy, he
quietly or you'll
really
be
is
sorry.
a kid. He is not. That voice
come
is
and
gonna
get
be
me.
rough to deal with, I
We've
think.
got no other choice than to play it rough.
So naturally, Gokdari rams his magic golden staff into this gross green guy's mouth and gives him some gag torture that's really uncomfortable to watch.
Here's looking at you, kid.
What? Can you just say that? Was not expecting a Casablanca reference in my direct-to-video Dragon Ball ripoff movie, and somehow breaks his teeth. Alright, so I guess Gokdari is a bit of a little piss baby, a bit of a f***o, you could say. Then some more stuff happens. Oh my lord, okay. A little too graphic for me, guys. This guy gets naked. Apparently everyone in this universe can just hover in the sky, including the normal 13-year-old whose only superpower is just being obese, and the green guy whose name I found out is Wang Dochi's dentures come out.
Oh goodness, I'm really not having a very good day today.
You know, this is just classic Wang Dochi. Gokdari sucks them both up into his magic golden wand, and Wang Dochi really hams it up.
What a world, what a world.
At this point, it was starting to set in that while this movie looked like a Dragon Ball ripoff, it played out more like a morning cartoon for 5-year-olds. Is that the mayor? That looks like a mayor if I've ever seen one. Oh, it is the mayor. Wow, TV cameras are very large in the year 2023. It turns out Gokdari is a little shithead.
I believe there was some reward money.
Oh, he's a little shithead who's only doing any of this for the money. He even refuses to hand over the criminals until he gets the briefcase of money first, and this whole scene ends up feeling more like a drug deal than a ceremony.
There's no need to count the money. It's all there. Trust me.
Back at the Super Kids hideout, the chief of police, who happens to look exactly like the mayor, gives them their next assignment.
Here's $200,000 I scraped up from the police station.
And this creepy captain guy explains that they have to defeat...
The criminal's so ruthless that he sold his own family into slavery for a box of gold.
Jesus, okay. Along with a former detective who...
He was a highly decorated officer, but he turned his back on the law when his 10-year-old son was accidentally shot in a battle between the monster and the police. He possesses superhuman strength and should be regarded as extremely dangerous. He also has the ability to materialize anywhere at any time. If these two criminals continue on their
Should I be writing this down? I feel like this is a lot of exposition.
I got an itch for fighting, so don't worry, Chief. We'll take care of this judogi character and have him behind bars in no time.
Did I not
Right,
notice until now that Gokdari has a New York accent? I'll take care of this character. So after everyone has a mental breakdown about how they're being sent to their certain death,
We're all doomed.
then the old guy writes his will.
To my great-granddaughter, I bequeath my favorite shoe.
And then chickens out anyway.
I wish I could have gone, but I've got a lot of house cleaning to catch up on.
They jet off to planet X7, where the bad guys Judogi and Mayo are hiding, in a big mech. A trip that is specified to take a full 10 days to make, mind you. An epic and radical mech fight? Perhaps? No. Don't get your hopes up.
Well, I guess I got time to go for a little snack.
Get it? Cause he's fat. Do you get it? Cause he's fat and he always wants to eat, and he always wants to go to the food room because he's big and fat.
Do you get it?
June sneaks into the ship too to get an exclusive scoop, and there's a whole thing with her and Big Boy, which I'm just not gonna touch because we now know that Big Boy is 13, and I'm not sure how old June is, but clearly old enough to have a full-time job. After arriving, they fly around a bit on their magic carpet and run into some locals. Oh, sick. Some freaky little guys. Heartless and careless as ever, our hero Gokdari decides to just straight up shoot them in the face on sight. We, the super kids, are here to show up on an alien planet and just start shooting people randomly, I guess, before realizing that they're actually friendly victims of Judogi's subjugation. Oh my god!
Well, what do you know? I guess they're harmless.
Yeah, why did you just show up on their home planet and start shooting them?
Your days of tormenting innocent people are over.
I'm here to torment the innocent people instead. So they fight Judogi, get their asses handed to them.
I think it's time to teach Judogi a lesson.
Mayo shows up, and they get their asses handed to them a second time.
Mayo, get out of our way!
Mayo then does some shadow clone jutsu and reveals that he's not evil and that there's actually another bad guy named Kakarus who's disguised as the police captain back on their home planet, Planet Delta, who just wanted to take Judogi's fortune for himself.
I knew I couldn't trust him.
You did? You didn't make any indication of that.
If my son were alive, he would have been your age. You remind me of him.
Then why did you just light him on fire a second ago? Oh, also June got kidnapped. So while Big Boy and Samachi rescue June... You're picking up what? I can't hear you. Gogdari and Rockpile zoom back to Planet Delta real quick, a journey that you'll remember took 10 full days on the way here. Chief Room.
I have no more time to waste on your pathetic life.
Please don't! Oh, no, please! I beg of you!
Sounds more like he's being tickled than being killed with some sort of mysterious space weapon.
I assume you've captured Judogi. If that's the case, let me reward you.
By getting naked.
So now you show me your true colors.
One color, to be exact. Red. Rockpile finally gets his moment in the sun. I'm a big Rockpile stan, by the way. Hell yeah, Rockpile. And I think that the creator of this movie has some weird obsession with people's teeth breaking because, yeah, that happens a second time. They find out that Kakarus is scared of ants, and as expected at this point, Gokdari gets weirdly sadistic about torturing him into submission. Meanwhile, back on X7, Big Boy and Samachi have been left to save June and fight Judogi all on their own, so they realize that they must combine their energies and use it against him.
We must combine our energies and use it against him.
Why didn't I think of that? That doesn't really work very well, though. But luckily, Gokdari and Rockpile are back in no time, further calling into question why we made such a point of mentioning that the trip took 10 days in the first place. The music makes this sound like it's from like the 50s, not 1994. And with the power of teamwork, they reveal that Judogi is actually a little guy who can turn into a big guy. And Judogi says this.
You are truly worthy opponents. I'm impressed, but the four of you don't stand a chance against the powers I possess.
Excuse me? Am I supposed to be able to hear this? And a chance against the powers I possess. I could have done the English dub for a Korean knockoff of Dragon Ball in the 90s. A lot of yelling and blasting and finger elongating later. Mayo shows up again out of nowhere, and for one last time gets real gross and weird with it. He extracts Judogi's Dragon Ball, power bead, from his throat.
No, don't do it!
What? Oh! And crushes it with his bare hand.
I'll crush it with my bare hands!
My bead! My precious bead!
Any second now. You can do it. There you go. Sacrificing himself in the process. Even after Judogi has lost the source of his power, and Gokdari reveals that he can apparently also turn giant if he feels like it, the Super Kids still have a weirdly hard time defeating him, but they do eventually manage it. Alright, let's wrap it up.
I'm just glad it's over.
I'll be honest, I'm just glad it's over too.
And I sure wouldn't mind something to eat.
Get it? Because he's fat. They return to Planet Delta, and apparently Gokdari's entire personality has just turned on a dime and he donated the $200,000 of reward money to an orphanage. I bet you feel terrible now for thinking he was just a greedy little nitwit, huh? And he explains that to pay the bills, the team just needs to catch 10 criminals a month, thus setting us up for the Super Kids to be made into a full series. And sure enough, there was a 52 episode series that started production following the movie, but as I'm sure you can guess, the movie movie flopped, fell into obscurity, and the series was quickly canceled. It deserves its spot in the bottom 10. This one was tough to get through, and I couldn't help but keep returning to Twinkle Nora Rock Me in my head, praying to come across another masterpiece like it to ease my pain. Unfortunately, this is the point in the list where things really start to descend into madness. Strap in. Alright, Human Zoo, also known as clap vocalism. This is by far the oldest entry in this list, coming out in 1962. Huh. Yoji Kuri is another important figure in the recent history of Japanese art and animation, a cartoonist and independent filmmaker who was active mostly during the 60s. Human Zoo continues for another minute and a half like this. We cut between a series of pairs of men and women inside this cage, and as the women physically abuse the men in various ways, the men call out with sharp animalistic yelps. Kuri was well known at the time, probably the most well-known name in Japanese animation outside of Japan. In fact, one publication referred to him as the only Japanese animator whose work is known in the West, despite the fact that Astro Boy was airing in the US at the same time. This particular film even won a handful of animation awards at various festivals. It's unclear to me if there's an element of masochism involved here too, but Kuri is pretty clearly lamenting the changing of gender roles in the society of the 60s and likening it to abuse and degradation towards men. Respect, of course, for helping blaze a path for other animators, but that's a pretty embarrassing take there, buddy. I know this is somewhat similar to Madonna in that it's an abstract short film, but as opposed to just conveying the very concept of absurdity, I'd say that this one does have a specific story that it's telling, and it does it clumsily. So I'm gonna go ahead and say, I'm sure this was influential at the time, but yes, this one does deserve to be in the bottom 10. Up next is another 2-minute short film, this time from 2016. We have Love Bites by Takena Nagao. Oh boy, already hard to look at. Again, I don't know how much of this one I can show you, not only because it looks like graphics from a Nintendo DS game made by a deranged hermit, and I, being the considerate creature that I am, fear for your sanity, but also because it's quite violent. These two girls wordlessly agree on a meeting time at a bench outside the maze from that one Windows 95 screensaver. Such artistic use of minimalism here really says something about how the most terrifying thing is our own imaginations. And schoolgirls. But when they start to hold hands, the second girl cuts the first girl's hand with a scalpel and starts drinking her blood. Luckily, girl 3 shows up and saves the day. Wow, okay. Girl 1 faints from shock, and when she comes to, embraces Girl 3, only to reveal that she's now a vampire too. Oh no, what a twist. The two lie in a pool of blood while Girl 2 mysteriously disappears from the background, and an overpowering white noise fills the space at an ever-increasing volume before suddenly cutting out. Incredibly deep. A psychosexual exploration of why lesbians are scary, I guess? Deserved. Let's keep moving. We've got a repeat offender here because 2003's Aki no Puzzle, or Puzzle of Autumn, is yet another short film from Keiichi Tanami of Madonna fame back at number 9. So again, a warning for flashing lights in this section if you're sensitive to that. Going into this, I was curious to see why this film had scored so much lower than Madonna, which is sitting up at a princely 2.95 out of 10. And after having watched it, I'm not really sure, but my two guesses are, 1, that it's longer at 6 minutes, and 2, the intro, which I'll have to find a way to show you without burning your corneas and causing you to forget what year it is and what town you were born in. Aki no Puzzle comes in 5 parts, each separated by a short black screen, and it's essentially the same brain-melting deal. You guys ever think about what it would feel like to cease to exist? No? I guess it's a bit more aggressive with the flashing lights, and this may just be because I knew what to expect this time, I also felt like the images and soundtrack flowed into each other in a way that felt more cohesive than Madonna. Once I got past the initial shock and started allowing my eyes to not focus on any individual thing, but just stare into the middle distance and let my brain absorb what it will, I actually started enjoying it. You know what, I'm kinda getting into this one. I can jam out to this. And just like that, it over? I think I missed a word in my script, but that's what's there, so that's what you're getting. And just like that, it over. All right, that was It sure was. Again, not deserved. It doesn't even make sense to rate on a 1 out of 10 scale. We're back into the realm of the somewhat comprehensible with Hametsu no Mars, or Mars of Destruction, a 20-minute OVA based on a visual novel of the same name and from the same year, 2005. In the year 2010, a mission to Mars bursts into flames on re-entry to Earth. Several months later, Panic Pete here shows up in the middle of Tokyo, along with some buddies, and it's these 3 children's job to handle it. One of them immediately gets her head blown off. Yeah, don't bother getting out of the way, just stand there while they zap you. But it's fine, because she wasn't actually the real third girl. I wonder why they chose that shot in particular. There's actually a different green third girl with glasses who shows up later, and so nobody really seems to mind that this particular girl got her head blown off. But they're now outnumbered 3-2, so luckily Tron Legacy shows up. There you go, there's a guy that knows how to move out of the way of a death beam. The Tron guy, whose name is apparently Takeru, saves the day, but gets his head blasted hard in the process. Back at the hospital, we get some exposition. So basically, these 3 Moe creatures and 1 Shinji a young boy who wears a robot suit just to please his absent father? Where have I seen that before? Are an elite task force in charge of battling the strange beings that have been appearing ever since the failed Mars mission. Taken from various police organizations, why do they look like an idol group? Who isn't an expert in anything. He's just a dumbass. None of us have been told why he wears the special suit. It's because he's a boy, come on. He needs to be here to have all the girls fawn over him because he gets to wear the cool suit, even though he's just an ordinary high schooler. Also, apparently the suit is called Mars, and that's why it's called Mars of Destruction, not because of the destructive creatures seemingly from Mars. That's just a coincidence, I guess. They're transporting a shard from the Mars mission to be analyzed in the US. Are we sure this girl is old enough to drive? And they get ambushed by the big bad guy. See, he's like the other bad guys, but this one is bigger and scarier, which means it's time for Takeru to suit up. Oh, where else have I seen striking yet meaningless Christian imagery before? Oh, where is that gonna go? Oh, okay. I will say, I love that the suit is basically a bunch of duct tape that just wraps itself around him. Oh, they're really squeezing him in there. I noticed that the score is only classical music that's in the public domain. I mean, classical music is great, don't get me wrong, just something to notice. He gets embarrassed pretty much immediately. Oh, just like that. Oh, God, the sound she made. Wow, this is unbearable. What? The music just cuts randomly from one track to another. Oh, yep. Gotta make sure we scan over that entire body. She's wearing that bodysuit for a reason. Oh. She's fine. Normal guns don't work on the monster, but the green girl with glasses, who I can only assume is the science one, gives Takeru a special gun that shoots very good, but can only shoot once. Did he hit him? Looked like he missed to me. The crater in the truck behind him was about a foot to the right, but okay, I guess it's just over. American Science Man says that humanity actually came from Mars originally. Then the big baddie, who is apparently still alive and also apparently can talk, says this. What a twist. If you say so. What? I assume this line makes more sense in the visual novel that they tried to shove into 20 minutes, but I could not for the life of me parse what the hell he meant by that. You're just gonna believe him? Take his word for it? Oh, and that's the end, okay. Wow, what the hell? Okay. You know, I didn't know what I expected diving into the garbage heap of the bottom 10, but Mars of Destruction was so bad that it passed right through funny bad territory and back into regular bad. And at this point, it was late, I was getting a little grumpy, so this just actually made me mad. I love it when the story is, actually it was the humans that were the bad guys. See? Man, so deep. Incredibly deep. Humans are the real plague. Never heard that one before. I read Parasite not too long ago, and I remember one of the little blurbs from the author at the end of a volume being about how this was initially the message of the manga, but then he realized quickly that that theme was cliché and overly simplistic. And that was in the late 80s. Do you think it was necessary for this incredibly deep message that all the members of the elite task force were cute little moe blobs in skin-tight outfits? I didn't even touch on the horrendous animation because at this point I'm just so used to it, but make no mistake, it is horrendous. Editing John here, I just noticed a bit of animation that's been reused. The clip you're looking at on the left is from the opening sequence, and the clip you're looking at on the right is from the climactic battle at the end. This is so transparently a cynical cash grab thrown together as a marketing project with a marketing budget. Deserved.
Please strike me here on my ball.
If I take one more step, I'll be the farthest from home I've ever been. Because this is the moment that we step into sub 2 territory with Takashi Kimura's striking daughter, which comes in at a whopping 1.99 out of 10. Do you remember how, and I guess this is still sort of the case, but around 2010, everyone had this notion that everything in Japan is so crazy and weird because only the craziest commercials and weirdest video games and game shows would filter through to Western culture? Bad start. Oh boy. Well, suffice it to say, I now believe that again.
This girl is Sayuri. Sayuri!
Okay. At this point, I had forgotten why I was even doing this in the first place and was convinced I was being punished by God. It's the middle of the night. I've been sitting here for 20 minutes trying to figure out how to summarize this 3-minute film, and maybe that's art in itself, I don't know anymore, but I'm just gonna read the synopsis from the website. Sayuri is a curious creature who lives on her husband.
This man is Hiroshi. Hiroshi married into Sayuri's family. Hiroshi!
With her equally surreal mother and father.
Sayuri's mama. Sayuri's papa. Mama, papa, mama, papa.
With an antenna-like whip protruding from her head, she is a striking daughter, and her long-awaited time to strike has come.
Your time has come to strike.
Her family and friends watch eagerly as Sayuri carries out this bizarre ceremony.
Hurry up!
Oh boy.
Right now.
Yep, that's basically what happens.
Please strike me.
Oh, am I gonna have to censor this?
Please strike me. Please strike me here on my butt.
Okay, yep.
Strike here.
Gonna have to censor that. Utsumusume Sayuri is like the version of the little animations that pop up on the TV at a bowling alley that someone would make if they had somehow survived a freak accident where they got a railroad spike lodged through their frontal lobe. Inspiring, really. What am I doing with my life? Okay, one more to go. Deserved. Before we get to the #1 ultimate most hated anime of all time, a quick mention for the 3 shorts that were cut from the list for not being more than a minute long. Coming in at 2.76 and 2.33 respectively are Shitcom and Kokuhaku, both of which are created by Takana Nagao, the creator of #5, Love Bites. He seems to mostly do shock value stop motion shorts, and you know what, I've actually seen Chainsaw Maid as a gross, gory little horror short. It was actually good. These two, though, are not. I don't think it's even worth mentioning what they're about. And just above Love Bites with a 2.63 is I. And that was it. It just ended. From someone called Rapparu, who, with several key animation and director credits, is one of the most successful animators on this list, something that is clearly just a little random animation test. Who listed this on this website? Fess up! And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. After countless hours trudging through the slime and muck at the bottom of the proverbial barrel, languishing in the essence of incompetence, watching some really bad anime, the time was almost here for me to be free of this nightmarish assignment that was so rudely thrust upon me by my ignorant, naive past self. I was hungry, exhausted, and delirious, but the one thing that kept me going was the thought that in just 19 minutes, I could finally put this all behind me and start my life anew. That light at the end of the tunnel was finally blinking into view, and my legs just started running, carrying me toward that beautiful glimmer in the distance. I don't know if I could have stopped them even if I wanted to. It was with a renewed vitality that I dove headfirst into this 19-minute average score 1.85 out of 10 OVA, Tenku Danzai Skelter Plus Heaven, or just Skelter Heaven from 2004. Alright, here we go. This bears a striking resemblance to the start of Mars of Destruction, and that is not a coincidence. After watching it, I discovered that Skelter Heaven was also produced and based on a visual novel by Idea Factory, an extremely prolific publisher of romance-based visual novels, which would also produce Mars of Destruction just a year later. So these two are in many ways sister OVAs, and the resemblances don't stop there. After a full minute-long shot of a blurry, shitty image of the Earth,
so here's the Earth,
we descend through the clouds into... I guess Tibet is where that would be? Okay, no, it's Tokyo. Well, we've never said what year it is, so maybe in the future Tokyo relocates to Tibet. I don't know. Much like Mars of Destruction, a mysterious threat has arrived in Tokyo, and a team of cutesy little bug-eyed, boobed-up schoolgirl homunculi and one mediocre boy are tasked with defeating it. But much unlike Mars of Destruction... Oh! We get an opening, a rare treat, and an ending song too, as I would soon find out. Yeah, we don't need to do any animation for the intro or anything, just throw 1,000 vaguely sci-fi overlays over a still image and blend them all together and call it a day. Those, along with the completely unnecessary shot at the beginning, make up a combined 4.5 minutes, meaning that we have just 14.5 minutes to tell this entire story. So gird your loins. Is this also a visual novel? Because this feels very visual novel-esque. Yes, we already covered that. Keep up, idiot. So this big squid thing is hovering over Tokyo. Watch out, it's Sayuri. She's about to strike.
Perhaps I'd like to strike it.
But luckily, all it ever does is just stand there.
Menacingly!
Which means there's plenty of time for the girls to do some leisurely training back at the Code Geass mansion in their PS2 mechs. I know it's a cliche to say that something looks like PS2 graphics, but I mean that literally. These are literally mechs from a PS2 game. Weirdly, I feel like the animation here is actually a bit better than in Mars of Destruction, though we're not free of weird little glitches like this, where a slight discrepancy between the mouth open and mouth closed frames make it look like the pink one here is crawling with larvae or something when she talks. Oh, the voice. Right off the bat, that hurts. And the fact that Skelter Heaven isn't obscured by the cover of darkness makes it even harder to look at. They of course rely heavily on 2004 CGI for the backgrounds and the overly textured, practically outlineless mechs. But what really gets me is that when the girls get into the mechs, they suddenly become significantly less detailed, stationary CG versions of themselves. What happened to her hair? Is it important that they be exposed in their bikinis in the front of the mech? There's an urgent alert and the fate of mankind is in danger, but we've still got time to do a little bit of whatever this is, right? I'm sorry, what is this supposed to simulate? The main girl, whose name is Ichikawa, by the way, not that you'd know that, and two other girls look on mesmerized. Okay, obviously I get why they decided to put this in here, but without the capacity to animate any sort of jiggle physics or anything, what is even the point? And what on earth is she taking notes about on that clipboard? Anyway, the girls finally assemble for a briefing about a third of the way through the runtime, and the brass makes some completely unfounded assumptions about the kaiju. Sure. Fire what? Sure enough, at no point does the monster fire anything of any sort, as far as I remember. Generic boy Funagai tells them that they'll have to locate the monster's weak spot by firing a bazooka at it at close range. No more details? Yep, a bazooka. Ichikawa, you're the one with the biggest hair floppies. You're in charge. It turns out there's a bit of a love triangle situation between Ichikawa, Funagai, and the tall one. You're a loose cannon. Yeah, but I get results, and my tummy is out. We're now past the halfway point, and the battle has finally started. Ah yes, it's imperative that as soon as you enter the mech, you remain completely expressionless and still as a statue. Why doesn't he get a mech? They blast the beast with a scanner of some kind, and there's some green goo, and the aptly named Midori, or green, gets struck and explodes. Oh, they're fine. Oh, she's not fine. Hey, at least in this one they care about their comrades getting horribly killed. Yeah, woman. Don't get all emotional. Oh, also, did we mention that the girls are actually synthetic humanoids? No? Well, they are. Boobed up schoolgirl homunculi. Where have I seen that before? I love that we keep smash cutting back to this blood-curdling scream. This next bit, I honestly don't know what is happening here. I think Funagai and Ichikawa are having a sacrificing yourself for love contest. Yeah, why did you make the synthetic humans so dreamy? That seems a bit distracting. And somehow Ichikawa and the pink one end up inside the kaiju's mind palace. Thought I finished X-Arm. And again, just like that, it's over. What did she do, though? Okay. The chief deletes Funagai off the face of the earth with the press of a single button. Yeah, maybe if you hadn't designed them to look like that, he wouldn't have caught feelings. And 1 year later, breaking news! There's 8 of them now. The end. Well, just make 8 times as many girls then, right? I mean, it's not like that thing was particularly intimidating in the first place. Truly a masterpiece. In many ways, a mirror image of its sister, Mars of Destruction, Skelter Heaven follows all the same beats, features the same heavy surface level inspiration, we'll call it, from Neon Genesis Evangelion, and the same abrupt ending, but with its even more nonsensical plot, appalling mech animation, and even more fan service, it sits comfortably in its deserved spot in the bottom 10 anime of all time. I don't know if I would keep it at number 1 or replace it with X-Arm, but I don't want to think about it any further. Please allow me the grace in these trying times to just forget any of this ever happened. So, did the experiment work? Has this ordeal put my days of pretentious snobbery behind me and opened the door to a new golden age of enlightenment where I can enjoy anything? Well, looking back on my experience, there were brief moments of Stockholm Syndrome. No, like a space. I can jam out to this. But overall, I think it just made me angry. Man, so deep. Never heard that one before. I guess my one salvation is the thought that at least I'm not alone. Obligatory sarcastic My Anime List reviews aside, the world at large has viewed these 10 works and judged them to be the absolute worst of the worst. The drivel undeserving of attention from even the most brain-rotted anime fans. And with a few exceptions, on that we can agree. As the Skelter Heaven music played and I sat there in the middle of the night contemplating my life, my mind couldn't help but wander back to where it all started. She really was the best of us, wasn't she? Images of Nora danced in my head, and all the pain, all the anger, and all the terrible CGI began to wash away like tears in rain. Twinkle, Nora, rock me. And much to my surprise, rock me she did. I kid you not, I began to feel Nora's loving embrace as she lifted me from my lonely desk up into the heavens, rocking me to sleep as we went. Rock me, Nora. 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 Nora.